Welcome along to the Late Night Agenda here on Anfield Agenda. And as you can see, I'm joined by a good friend of the channel, the one and only Mr. Mark Goldbridge. How are you, Mark?
I'm good, thanks. Hope everyone's doing well.
Yeah, it's a busy time, isn't it?
It is. That's why I'm looking so tired. It's very, very busy. I can't wait to get to the end of the transfer window, actually.
Yeah, it's transfer window time. It's a crazy one for a YouTube channel, isn't it? Because you've got obviously to try and keep up with what's going on, and then you've got the dogs abuse, of course. And we'll touch on the trolling a little bit later on. But I can't let you start the stream, Mark, without talking about the Foden and Greenwood situation. Now, for me, Greenwood can do what he wants. Do you know what I mean? Greenwood's a young man out there. He broke the rules. That's one thing, but doesn't look good on Foden with a missus and a child at home, does it?
No, I mean, I to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure about what the relationship situation is, because some people are saying that Greenwood's in a relationship as well. But apparently Foden's got a kid and he is in a relationship. It's a difficult one because, look, as a young lad, I've cheated, and I'm sure most people have. But I didn't do it with
Mark's
a kid.
A player. Breaking news. Mark's a player, ladies and gentlemen. Not anymore.
Well, I just think as a youngster, you do, and you are allowed to make those mistakes, because to say a 20-year-old or an 18-year-old, I know what I was like at 18 and 20, and I don't think I probably grew up properly until I was in my mid-20s. So I'm not going to judge them just because they're Premier League footballers on a lot of money. I think that's wrong. You can't just say, oh, they're on a lot of money, so therefore they should have grown up, matured. But the thing with me with this, and I was just saying it on the United Stand, is that they're a pair of brats. They are. I mean, I joked this afternoon, when I think of England players on England duty, I think of PlayStation 4s, Gary Neville and David Beckham, doing their sock drawer, or so, just boring stuff, really. I never thought, and maybe I'm naive myself, I never thought that because they're not on tour, they're not on a summer tour, they're not on a Benidorm holiday. They've got 2 games in 4 days. From Iceland to Denmark, and they're there in a hotel room sneaking girls in. And I just think, if we weren't in a COVID world, would they still get kicked out of the team hotel? Maybe, but that's the problem. Where they're meant to be quarantining. Everybody's struggling with mental health. Football coming back has been a really good thing. Footballers do have a privileged position. We'd all like it, regardless of the money. We'd all love to play for England, and they've totally and utterly flaunted the rules. So,
yeah, look, as you said, there's 2 sides of this. If we weren't in a COVID world, it would be a couple of chancers bringing in a couple of young ones. And to be fair, they were completely set up. I mean, those girls knew what they were at. I've seen the girls coming out and trying to act dumb. I've seen the interviews with the Daily Mail that you fully expect in these type of scenarios. And it's just tomorrow's chip paper, I suppose, really. It's just the latest. But as you said, from in a COVID world, you can't be doing these things. I mean, you've got to take care of your teammates.
As I said, realistically, the girls thing is relevant because that's what they've done. But what about if they got a bit hungry and they're fed up at the hotel room and they thought, oh, I'll tell you what, let's go down to, there's a nice takeaway down the road. They do nice chips and kebab meat. They go down there. It's a packed place. They get it. They get spotted by a camera guy. They breach the rules. They're still getting sent home. So the girls are a reason they've been kicked out. But I think people need to almost, maybe think about, it's about breaking the rules. It's the disrespect for England fans. It's the disrespect for Man City, Man United fans. It's the disrespect for Southgate. It's the disrespect for their profession and their fellow teammates by breaking the rules. That's why they've sneaked them in, because they're breaking the rules and they know what they've done, and it's a conscious decision. And that could be an urge in their pants, or it could be an urge in their stomach. But ultimately, they need to grow up. And I feel that the punishment fits the crime. It's embarrassing for them to get sent home. We needed them tomorrow night. But as a Manchester United player, Mason Greenwood's a fantastic player, and I just hope it's that kick up the arse now. We've done it with Ryan Giggs in the past. We've done it with Rooney, and we need to do it again, because he cannot be a wasted talent through stupid things like this. Hopefully, this will be the kick up the backside he needs, because he's a great player.
As you said, I found the one part of what I found funny, if anything else, was the almost awkwardness on the phone call between the 2 lads trying to chat up the 2 young ones. I mean, you could almost hear Greenwood a little bit more enthusiastic about it, whereas Foden seemed a little bit lost. I mean, They might be multi-millionaires, as you said, Mark, but they're still young lads trying to work on their game, and I mean off the pitch game. But look, we'll move on and we'll talk about the thing that everybody wants to talk about, man. You want to talk about Jadon Sancho from your end. I want to talk about Thiago from my end. Let's get a take from you on the whole Jadon Sancho Sancho situation, because we're all monitoring Jan Fjortov, we're all monitoring Christian Falk, and we're all trying to keep up to date. But as always, there's mixed messages. But one thing that's been consistent is yourself and Drawdy and the guys at the United stand have this belief that Jadon Sancho will eventually end up a United player.
Yeah, I do. I mean, it's based on a lot of things. I've spoken to people. Obviously, we've had Romano on the show. We've had Christian Falk on the show. We've had Jan Fjortoft on the show. And I also know other people. I know people within the club. I've spoken to people. And I think that I'm 90% sure it's going to happen. I'm very sure it's going to happen from based on knowledge. But also, there's a large part of me it's not based on what people have told me. It's just based on United are balls deep in this deal. Like, everybody knows we want him. He's the top priority. Even all the English press agree with that. Everyone knows we've been negotiating with Dortmund. Everybody knows we want him. Everyone knows he wants to come to us. Everyone knows Solskjaer wants him. For United to not do this deal, and people say, "Oh, if we don't do this deal, I can't wait to watch the United stand because you're just going to take a massive L." Well, of course I am as a fan, but Manchester United football are going to take the biggest L of the lot, because they've not delivered a player that is a statement signing when you're trying to close gaps on teams like yourself and Man City. So I don't think United cannot not do this deal as well. Beyond everything I've heard and how close a deal is, I just don't think they can't walk away from this. They can't.
If it does go on beyond this window, if Ed Woodward United can close it before October the 5th, and would you be a little bit more concerned about other clubs perhaps being in a better financial position to go and try and get Sancho next summer?
Yeah, I mean, I've said this before. I don't believe that, and I've heard some United fans saying, well, let's just wait till next summer. There's no benefit. He's got 3 years left on his contract. We thought he had 2. He's got 3. So he won't be any cheaper. In fact, he might cost more money in a non-COVID world. So, and on top of that, he wants to come to United now. And if we don't do the deal because we don't want to pay for him, and he's got to stay another year in Germany, he might say to United, I'll come in the summer. But this happened with Griezmann. And in the season, Barcelona and Real Madrid might be going, look, we couldn't afford you last year, but we desperately want you, Jadon. And then it's like, well, I'm wanted by them. United had their chance. So it's now or never for Sancho for me. I don't believe that if we don't get him now, yourself or another club won't come in and woo him better. So they've got to get the deal done for that reason as well.
And do you see the impasse being a financial one? Literally, they want 100 million. Now, I'm not following this as closely as you are, obviously, because I've given up hope of Jadon Sancho coming to Liverpool this summer. And maybe, as you said, if it doesn't happen, I'd like to see us throw our hat in the ring next summer. But we see the likes of Jan Fjortov, for instance. We've both spoken to Jan. He's a lovely fella. But he seems to be almost repeating the date that Dortmund gave them, that Michael Zorc came out there and said, I think it was the 10th of August, if my memory's right, and that's passed now, and that German clubs don't like to do things late. So that's been quite consistent. Have you a different take to that? Do you think the deal can still be salvaged? Yeah,
because the situation with the deal is that Dortmund are a selling club. That's what they are. It's not, I was arguing with a Dortmund fan today, trying to take the piss out of me, and I said, mate, you're a selling club. That's what you are. You buy young players and you sell them. That is your motto. I don't care whether you like it or not. That's what it is. Dortmund don't want to see Sancho go, but like any Dortmund player, they know that they're there to be sold at some point. So it comes down, and Jan's right, it comes down to United are not going to negotiate Dortmund down because they don't want to sell. United have got to pay the fee. The fee is very clearly around 110 million. I don't think they have to pay 110 million. I think it's about, you can give them 80 now, 20 next year, whatever. If they offer that fee and Dortmund turn it right down, they're going to be in all sorts of shit, because Sancho will be like, hold on a minute. This is not what you are. You're a club that sells. So Dortmund will reluctantly sell him if we pay the fair fee that they want. And so their deadline in some ways is an artificial deadline, because United know that if they pay the fee, they'll get him. So
we've also seen some links to yourselves, Arsenal, Barcelona, to Thiago. Now, I'm not going to lie, this is our third saga. You've spoken about you guys being unable to close deals. Well, look, it's happening for us time and time again. And we're after winning the Premier League, European Cup last year, and we're looking on the back of the sofa now to find 30 million euro to go out and sign Thiago.
I can't believe you didn't get Werner. I mean, I don't know why. I mean, I would love to have got Werner. And for £50 million, he's a £100 million player as well. If Havertz is going for 70 and Sancho's going for 100, well, Werner's a goal scorer. So he's a £100 million player going for 50 million. I don't know why, because I know Klopp wanted him. I wanted him at United. And Chelsea, really, you talk about taking advantage of a market. They never would have got Havertz. He would have gone to Real Madrid or Bayern. And Werner would have gone to Liverpool. But this COVID world seems to have messed up a lot of big clubs.
Yeah, it's a strange window. It really is a tough one to follow. I mean, I still think we'll see Gini Wijnaldum reluctantly from my end go to Barcelona, because I'm not a Liverpool fan I'm aware of that doesn't respect Gini Wijnaldum and what he brings to the pitch. I mean, he played more minutes than any other player outside of Roberto Firmino since 16-17, so it tells you how important he is to Klopp. But I also don't like the rumours coming out of Barcelona that I think they're going to get him for 15 million quid. Now, I know he's got 1 year left on his contract, but outside of this COVID world, we've seen Eden Hazard go in the last year of his contract for crazy money. They're looking for, I think, 30 million euros, very fair, by the way, for Thiago, what Bayern Munich are asking. I just want us to get the deal done. But from your end, you're taking...
Well, he's only got 1 year left on his contract as well.
Exactly, both of them,
yeah.
It's a very similar situation. I just hope we don't balls it up. I'm not going to lie to you, mate. There's Liverpool fans all around the world now just hoping this whole transfer window for us, much like you, we're both here pinning on one player to come in. And from our end, and you know this, under the Ferguson era, you want to strengthen from a position of strength. We finally got that Premier League title after 30 years of everything. You name it, it's happened to us. Even winning it happens, of course, in the year when COVID strikes and we had to wonder whether the league would even finish. I mean, it's the most Liverpool way of ever doing anything, but it's a strange old window, Mark. And I wanted to just touch on opposition clubs as well, because Chelsea and Roman Abramovich have got out there spending like drunken sailors. We even have Everton signing James Rodriguez. Now, Everton signing James Rodriguez. Just let that sink in for a second. The Merseyside billionaires, Mark. Do you know what I mean? They keep putting out these new images of that shiny new apple pie in the sky stadium that they're never going to get as well. So it is intriguing,
don't they? They've got Decore, Alan from Napoli, James Rodriguez. I actually said this. I did a Premier League prediction show last Friday, and I said I don't think Everton will get top six, but I think they will be the surprise package. I predicted Liverpool are going to win the league, and I predicted Liverpool would win the league last year. But I said last year as well, you should always be trying to buy a player. As a United fan who's seen us win time and time again, I think you should always be trying to add something in. And Liverpool are going to have to do 3 years in a row of this relentless ability and form with the same set of players again. But it served you well for the last 2 years. You don't seem to ever lose Mane or Salah for a long period of time. And I think if you don't do that again, I still think Liverpool will win the league. But I do agree with Liverpool fans that it would have been it's surprising in the last 2 years, having won the Champions League and the Premier League, that you haven't added a couple of players in each summer of quality.
Yeah, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you, because I can see the next generation coming through. I can see the Harvey Elliott's, I can see the Ryan Brewsters and Curtis Jones, and you can see United, the young players coming through as well. So Klopp's second team, I think, will take shape rather nicely, but that's still... I can't disagree that we've been rather fortunate. We've had our fair share of injuries, but we haven't lost the Virgil van Dijk, or we haven't lost the Sadio Mane, Mohamed Salah for 6 months, say. So we have been a little bit fortunate to that extent, and you need that on your side if you're going to win the Premier League. And I know there's Liverpool fans out there are going to be screaming at me saying all the injuries we've gone through, but that's kind of irrelevant. We've got it done. The real worry for me, and I don't know if you feel the same way about Ollie, is that hearing that Klopp wanted Werner and was told no. That's the part as a fan that worries me, because I've always worked under the assumption that Klopp is very good in the transfer market. If he doesn't see value, he won't go after a player. Now, 50 million, as you touched on earlier on, for Werner is value. So I can see why the manager wanted him. So that's what worries me. And I don't know if you feel the same, but your side is just Ole Gunnar Solskjaer not getting backed by the board.
Well, it's been a running theme with Manchester United. I mean, I never wanted Moyes, but he didn't get backed. Van Gaal wasn't backed, and Mourinho wasn't backed. And there'll be plenty of Liverpool fans saying, well, you've spent $1 billion, whatever. But they didn't get the players they wanted. They were given third or fourth options. And, that we know that in life, if you want a certain thing from a restaurant and they say that's out and that's out and that's out, you're eating something that you don't really want. So, but it surprises me with Liverpool, not with United. I think our owners they don't want to be a football club. They want to be a business. But with Liverpool, I actually have said many a time that the way your owners have come in, they've taken very little money out of the club. It doesn't seem to be that they want the dividends and everything. They bought really well that summer, where you bought Alisson and everybody else. So it's a surprise from an outside point of view, because I think Klopp's got a ready-made excuse. If look, let's not beat around the bush. My Premier League prediction that Liverpool would win the league was totally based on the fact that I'd heard that Man City weren't getting Messi. I think if Man City had got Messi, they would have won the league, because I think if you get Messi, you're going to win the league. If you're a good team and you add Messi into it, you're going to win the league. So if Jurgen Klopp hadn't been given anybody and Pep had got Messi, I think Jurgen Klopp's got a ready-made excuse to say, look, I can only do so much. If you stand still in most sports, then you fall behind. And I think it's to his testament, and I do begrudgingly say this, I think Klopp is the best manager in the world. I think he's the best motivator, and I think his style of football is the best on the eye. But he needs that backing, and I think he's got a ready-made excuse. But to his credit, if he does it again with that team, then he's only confirming what I've just said there about his managerial abilities. And Sir Alex Ferguson was able to do that. I mean, he won titles with Cleverley in the midfield, so it can still be done. But it's nice. It's nice if you're backed by your owners.
Definitely is. Ladies and gentlemen, I can see a lot of people asking in the chat, is this live and stuff. We will be doing a part at the end where if you guys have any questions for myself or Mark, please get them ready and I'll ask you for them and we'll pull them up on screen and hopefully we can go through a few of them. I wanted to touch on something, and I said it at the start of the stream, Mark, something that I know we both find intriguing and funny at the same time, and that's trolling. I mean, I don't know how you feel on the United stand. I don't see how your chat goes all the time because, it moves so quickly because it's such a big channel. But for me, I find it intriguing. Do you find that the level of trolling is just subpar at best? That's what gets me about it. Why do people that troll have to be idiots? Most of the time, there's about 4 grammatical errors in a trolling, and I appreciate a good troll, man. I really do appreciate somebody who comes on and knows how to do it. But it's getting to the world now where people are trolling and they've no idea what they're talking about. Like, I'm sure you have had every assumption made about you personally on the channel. Like, we've had the Nottingham Forest stuff. I mean, I've had it all about me. How do you get by, man? How do you not let it get to you? Because it must get difficult at times. I know it does for me.
I think I've said it before, it was difficult at the start because you're new to it. But when you've been doing it for a few years, it's still the same. In fact, it's probably more because there's more people. But in fairness to like Liverpool fans or Chelsea fans, I don't really get called a Forest fan because I think that they probably understand that if you're going to banter a rival club, you don't want to leave yourself exposed for a really bad comeback. So, like you say, the Forest fan thing is just exposes you to being thick because it's just based on the fact that I'm from Nottingham. There's no level to it. It's just idiocy. So, I think you're right on that. But I always appreciate a good bit of banter. Like, there's a Chelsea fan at the moment who has replies to every tweet I do with David Brooks en route. Because obviously we got linked to David Brooks from Bournemouth, and relentlessly he's obviously got my notifications on. And I think, what, fair play. You literally, because I don't tweet to a schedule, so he obviously his phone pings and he does it. And some people will reply sometimes, and I'll think actually that's very good. I do like football Twitter. I have an up and down relationship over the years, but I think I get on with it quite well. You're always going to get knobheads, of course you are, and Twitter is especially a place for those people to reside. But I like the rivalry and the banter. I always say, for me, it's not about we're rivals, not enemies, and I think that's the way it should be. So banter should be part of that. Of course, we're going to be overprotective of our player in our club, and sometimes you get angry and aggressive about that. But yeah, I mean, I think the people who really struggle are the people who are just filled with hate. And if you're filled with hate, you're going to expose yourself as a hateful person, and you're probably not going to have the clarity to do banter because everything that you're saying is coming from a place of hate. So it's just aggression, and you misspell your words, you talk shit, and basically it's just a mirror. For anybody to be like that, they've got to. I feel sorry for them because they've got to have. They ain't some nice guy sat at home with a BMW on his drive in a detached house with a beautiful wife and 3 kids, going on Twitter going, fuck off you bold Liverpool twat, or fuck off you goofy Forest fan dickhead. They're not going to be doing that. They're going to be somebody who's got some level of miserableness in their life. And I do think that, a lot of trolls on Twitter, they're just expressing their inner demons. And, that makes me feel sorry for them because I think, I've struggled with mental health, and I know you have, and I think a lot of people do. And you think, what? they might be calling me a really horrible name, but what's going on in them? There's turmoil in them to be lashing out like that. So I pity them in many ways, even though we're a victim of them.
I don't understand the mentality of, I mean, I get that people dislike me, and I'm sure that you understand that everybody doesn't like you either. But where I struggle is the mentality of, you said there's a guy who was your notifications turned on, for example. People that claim to hate you show up everywhere. Everywhere that you are, every platform that you're on, they're there within minutes. I really struggle. As you said, they must have something within their own lives. And I got to the point where when I started streaming, I used to react. I used to get angry to these people, and I used to bite on the comments. But now I generally just wish them well, because as you said, there's obviously something within them that makes them feel that they need to express, or they need to vent, or they need to come and be angry at people. So leave it be is what I say. But I always admire you, because you do manipulate football Twitter rather well, I have to say. I mean, I sit back sometimes and I watch and go, that's bait, that's brilliant, that's Mark being really clever. It has been a joy to watch. And we can push the rivalry aside. I mean, me and you have banter, and that's fine. But when you come on for a chat, I don't want to go through the banter. I want to have a chat with my mate, and I'll enjoy catching up with you, because it's not often we get to do these, because you're a really busy guy, and thankfully our channel's continuing to grow and things are pushing on as well. But I do always find it interesting, the evolution of Mark Goldbridge. And there was somebody who made sure, he promised me to ask you a question. I want to just pull it up on my phone because I don't want to get it wrong. I promised this gentleman I'd ask you a question. It's a relatively straightforward one, Mark, but it's one that I'm kind of intrigued to know as well. He said, it's from Samiak, and he said, can you ask Mark, from where did he get the idea to start the United stand? And did he ever think that it would become this big?
The idea basically came... I mean, I'm sure some people might have heard it before. I was on holiday. I was on a lilo on a swimming pool, and I was just like, you know what? I've always loved football. I've always loved football forums, but surely there's something more interactive you can do. So I just started doing a Google Hangout as a once a week thing. That's how it started. And it was called Soccer Box. And Gary Neville's nicked that name, by the way, because there's no way. He wasn't doing Soccer Box when I did Soccer Box. So where's he heard that name from? But he can have it. It's a shit name. And, I was doing Soccer Box, and it was more general stuff. It was just meant to be a weekly chat, and then ended up getting I did a United match reaction one day because we'd had a shit result, and it got more views than the weekly thing I was doing. And I was like, hold on a minute, a United fan, just do United content. And then we had to change the name, and it became United Stand. So, but it was still a weekly thing. We used to just do it on a Sunday night and a match reaction, and now, you know, it's sometimes doing 2 or 3 videos a day. So it's evolved massively. But I've never had any expectations with it. And I'm sure you're the same. There was a time when if somebody said you'd get 50,000 subscribers, I would have gone, oh my God, we've made it. So yeah, I don't really have any expectations. I think to hit 1 million subscribers would be stunning. But other than that, I've never had any, 100,000 or 500,000. And I know people won't believe that, but anybody who knows me will know I'm absolutely terrible at praising things I do, or self-appreciation or celebrations or anything like that. I'm just not. I don't go in for that. I just, let's just carry on. And so, and now I had no expectations about it, and I hope that this channel can grow into that. And there's no reason why it can't, because the thing I'm very proud of is the community of fan channels and things out there, because I think it is trend setting and breaking down the barriers of the mainstream media, which we hear on things like Talk Sport and Sky Sports and BT all the time, and ESPN, and these ex-players who just talk absolute dog shit. And some of them are club legends. I mean, one of yours is Steve Nicol. I mean, I called him a Poundland Gary Neville today, but he is, and actually he's played for very good Liverpool sides. He's probably won a few titles in his time. And he talks absolute shit. And I don't know whether he's getting given a script or he actually believes it, but he is the example that fan opinion, and I'm not talking about me or you here, I'm talking about everyone in your live comments or any fan, don't ever think your opinion is not as good as an ex-player, because Steve Nicol is a prime example of why. And look, we've got some as well. Someone's going to say Roy Keane or Scholesy or whatever. And I don't disagree with you, because they are greats of our football club and your football club, and they deserve the respect for that. But that doesn't mean that their opinion as fans or pundits is any better than yours. And I think that's been a driver for me in fan content as well. I much prefer the interactivity with fans than I do from what I get off Match of the Day or Sky.
One thing I wanted to just touch on and come back is you spoke about numbers and the growth of the United stand and our channel growing and stuff. I think what people don't often realise, and you often say to me, I send you a message saying, we just hit 40k, and you say congratulations. And I genuinely know that you know that feeling. You remember 100 subs, 1,000 subs. So people that are out there watching that maybe have a YouTube channel that they're starting that has 200-300 subs, they should enjoy every single milestone along the way. And you treat this like you did from day one. I can see it in you. You've never been about the money. You've got to cash out from this and probably gone mainstream a long time ago. So people need to realize that you might have 820,000 subs or whatever, but you've been through every stage that every single one of us is going through along the way. So I often see you congratulating people on little milestones, and I know there's sincerity behind it. And I just want people to know that as well, because behind the scenes, you've been really helpful to us. And I've said it a lot of times on the channel, and gone out of your way, stuff that you didn't need to. And that is, I think, the difference here. I used to think that it was a backstabbing world, and I got to be honest with you, man. It's only in the past couple of months that I've kind of opened myself up and be more willing to do stuff with other people and take chances. And the amount of times that I get called, or we get called, United Stand ripoff is hilarious. I mean, I want to congratulate you for inventing the green screen anyway, first and foremost.
Makes things a lot easier.
Funny. It's so much more fun. I tell you what, shout out to Drawdy, by the way. He's been on top of his game lately. I've seen some of the new studios and stuff he's designed. And again, behind the scenes, Drawdy's been very good to us.
He's fantastic, because even the thumbnails, like I was like the other day, I said, there's somebody doing our thumbnails. They're doing a really shit job. But even to me, and I'm not artistic, I'm like, he's basically copying our thumbnails in a very shit way. And he went, I'll sort that out. And he's done it. And I went, can you send me the templates for them? He says, no, not even you can edit them. Because like normally he'll send me the template and I just put words in, like on bloody Photoshop or something like that. He says, you can't even do it on this because it's all slanted. And that he is. He's absolutely fantastic. And that's been a massive part of it as well. But no, just going back to that, I really do like things like this channel, because I can see, obviously there's Red Men. They do a great job. I really like those lads. They've been going longer than the United Stand. But I do feel that in the United community, there's 3 or 4 channels. And there are some knobheads out there. You're not wrong that there are some real knobheads out there, but there's some really good people as well. And I think that your journey sort of echoes ours. You're just a few years behind. You do it your own way. You're going to get criticism. It's a well-populated market. The Liverpool fan base and the United fan base, whilst we don't like each other, actually have very similar parallels in relation to passion and history and the way we want our clubs to be. So I get people on the United Stand who come on a fan cam, they get on a weekly show, then they start doing their own YouTube and their own Twitter. And in very little time, they'll have 20,000 followers on Twitter, 20,000 followers on YouTube. And I just think you don't know the journey, because you're actually growing off the United Stand, and that's fine. But if you'd started on your own, you'd have 1,000 on Twitter and probably about 500 on YouTube after a year, because that's just what happens when you do it organically. So there are channels like yourselves and a few others that I just totally feel that it's sort of echoing what we did. And I know that journey. I don't know this journey where you get parachuted onto a successful channel, you decide to do your own stuff, and you're just being handed the keys to the kingdom, really.
Bringing it back towards the season, looking ahead to the new campaign, obviously we kick off at the weekend. What are your predictions? I mean, I know you've put them out there, but for our viewers who perhaps haven't seen your, let's say, top 6, and the ones I always struggle with, actually, Mark, is relegation. They're the ones that I always get
with that this year. Terribly
wrong each season. So what are you thinking for the top 6? What are you looking at? How far do you think United can dent into Liverpool and Manchester City's lead?
Oh, God, I hope I remember this right, because it's my own bloody video, but I definitely went Liverpool first. I think I went Chelsea second. And look, I don't know what the expectation is with Chelsea, but he's got a lot of good players, and they weren't a terrible team last year. So I went Chelsea second. City third, and everyone thinks City are going to win the league, and I don't get it. I still think Pep hasn't got a plan B. I still think he'll go to places like Southampton, have 20 shots and still lose 1-0. He's only bought Aki, Ferran Torres, and all right, he'd probably get Koulibaly, but I still, they've lost David Silva. I still think they're going to be inconsistent, so I put them third. I put us fourth. I think I put Spurs fifth and Arsenal sixth.
Yeah, it's difficult. I don't like to do predictions until the transfer window's closed, but in this case, obviously, it's a different world, because they had it so the window closed before the season starts. Now it's moved to October 5th, so it is difficult. I mean, there are other clubs going underneath the radar. Wolves, again, are out there in the market dipping their toes in. Leeds coming up. I know massive rival to Manchester United, and I was talking to the lads at All Leeds Fan TV the other day, and great crack on there. But they're looking forward to the banter as well with United fans, and they've gone out and I think dropped 120 odd million so far when they've come up. So there are clubs that are being bold in this window. It's going to be a very interesting season.
See, I've got to be honest. I didn't know they spent that much money because I've said they're going down, and I said West Brom and Fulham are definitely going down. I really struggle with relegation. I said West Brom and Fulham are going down because they're just not very good. And I said, to me, it could be Newcastle, it could be West Ham, it could be Palace, it could be any. It could be. I don't think it'll be Brighton, but I was like, you know what? If I've got to pick a third team to go down, which you've got to do on a prediction, I'm just going to go Leeds, basically because they're a newly promoted team. Whereas I think Newcastle and everyone else, they're Premier League teams, aren't they? And I think that experience helps. But after what you've just said there, it probably won't be Leeds. And it's probably more wishful thinking, really.
Probably, yeah. I'll give you that. With me, I mean, I have that bias for West Brom. I mean, they'll always think of Tony Pulis to me. I mean, I don't care how long he was at Stoke. I mean, I don't want them up. I'm not even going to lie to you. I hope they go straight back down. And I've nothing against the fans. Don't know them. Haven't interacted with them, but never been a fan of West Brom as a club. Look, ladies and gentlemen, to finish up before we let Mark go, give us a few of your questions. Let's see what we've got. I'll give it a minute or two for the chat to go in. Give us a question or two, folks, that you want me to ask Mark. For me, I think it's still going to be a fight out, Mark, between Liverpool and City for the title. I don't think, even with the spending of Chelsea, I think people underestimate, one, how long it's going to take these players to gel. Two, how Frank Lampard's going to be exposed and the pressure that Frank Lampard is now going to be under, because there's no more little old Frank Lampard didn't have the purse strings open, had to make do with the youngsters. He's under serious pressure now, man, with the spending that he's gone out there and done. How do you think he's going to do at Chelsea, or do you think he'll be replaced?
I predicted Timo Werner is going to be the top goal scorer this season. I watched a lot of Chelsea last year and they missed a lot of chances. They lost 12 games. I remember the Everton game. They lost it 2-1 and they had so many chances. So I think Werner and Havertz and Ziyech are real quality players. So I think they'll score a lot more. But yeah, I think the pressure's on. It'd be interesting to see how they start the season. I think they've got to start the season and basically, win 5 of the first 6 games. And then, the confidence grows from that. A little bit like when Mourinho came into Chelsea. It's almost like a brand new start for them. So, but again, I'd be very surprised if Man City have got the consistency. I still think they're vulnerable and I don't think they've done enough to improve. Aguero will be out for at least 2 months with a hamstring again. I don't rate Jesus. Sterling's hot and cold. Sane's gone now. Mahrez I like. Bernardo Silva I like. Ferran Torres will be a decent player. De Bruyne is obviously world class, but I just don't look at that. Maybe I'm getting this wrong because a lot of people are putting City as their favourites, but I just don't think City are the threat. And I hope that Liverpool are going to not be as relentless as they were, because I think if Liverpool drop from where they are to maybe sort of late 80s and United and Chelsea can add 15 points on, which is quite doable, then it just condenses everything sort of into the 80-point region. But I still think you'll win the league. Yeah.
What always makes me smile is we'll go into the Champions League campaign and yet again, they'll probably make Manchester City favourites to win the Champions League, that we all know they're just not going to do it. Now, there is a question from Pat, and he wants to know your thoughts on your owners. Now, you touched on it a little bit earlier on, but I mean, if I may, before we get into your answer, I think Liverpool fans, a lot of them are wanting new owners at times. And I sit here and I kind of think of Ian Ayer's quote when he said, you need to be careful what you wish for, because in this day and age, there's no more local lad done good who loves the football club who's going to come in and buy it, because Liverpool and Manchester United are worth billions at this point. So there's no more local lad who, started a business and done well who's going to come in and have the type of funds. You're going to get either state-backed, whether it's Chinese, whether it's Abu Dhabi or whatever it might be, or you're going to get a hedge fund that's going to come in and either leverage the value of the club to buy it, or they're going to do what maybe our owners are doing and look at the long term and just look at it that we'll cash out, we'll get our big payday at the end. So what do you think of from a United standpoint?
I think that I can't stand them, to be honest. I don't agree with this hashtag Glazers out on Twitter and all that lot, because it will disappear as soon as the season starts. I didn't want them to buy the club 15 years ago because they're not fans of the club and they bought us on debt. Yes, we've spent money, but I think if we had been bought like by Murdoch, which tried to happen, or we'd been owned by United fans, we'd have spent a lot more. We're a business and we're not a football club. And yeah, look, people say, well, you've spent loads of money, but it's always been our money. It's not oil money. And we'd have spent a lot more money, a lot better, if the Glazers had come in and run it like a football club and not a business. I mean, look, every pound we've spent since Sir Alex Ferguson went, and it's hundreds of millions of pounds, has mostly been wasted because they didn't appoint the right manager and they didn't bring a director of football in. So their incompetence and money mad, the reluctance to let people in with football knowledge run the club has cost us. So I would swap the Glazers any day of the week. But I always live in hope, because it's going to be very hard to get rid of them, that they will change their attitude and try and, be more of a football club. But, and actually our signings over the last while haven't been terrible. So hopefully there is some change, but I don't like them. I don't like the idea that somebody who's not a fan, who's just a business person, can buy a club like that, put it into hundreds of millions of pounds of debt, keep it in hundreds of millions of pounds of debt. And I blame the Premier League as well. I don't really understand the rules, but it just pisses me off that was allowed to happen, really.
I have a question here, Thiago, based from a Liverpool fan. Says, hi, Craig and Mark. Ask Mark if he thinks Thiago will come. Even though I'm a Liverpool fan, I think Mark's hilarious and does a great job. So there you go. A little bit of praise for you as well, along with the question, Mark.
Yeah, I think Liverpool are favourites for Thiago. I think there's a slim chance for United, but I think that chance is getting slimmer and slimmer. I think Liverpool are favourites. But, I think even if he doesn't come to Liverpool, it's not going to come to United. I think he may go Barcelona or something like that, because a lot of it depends on what's happening with Wijnaldum. So I think he will. I think he will come to Liverpool. I think Liverpool want to do some business, and he would be a very good signing for you.
I'm not going to lie. I really, really am excited at the prospect of. He was one of these players that I never really paid much attention to throughout his career, and I don't know why. But in that little mini knockout tournament there for the Champions League, I have to say he ran that pitch. He really did, particularly in the final. Right, one more before I let you go, Mark, and thank you for the super chat. If Liverpool and Manchester United
on Thiago, we wanted him the summer that Moyes took over. He wanted to come to United. And he went to Bayern to sign, and he got his agent before he signed for Bayern Munich to ring Manchester United up to make sure United didn't want him. And Moyes said, "No, I don't want you." And we went and bought Fellaini. I mean,
there's so many of these wonderful stories, isn't there, that players that clubs have missed out on over the years. I mean, Liverpool famously, of course, had the chance to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, and we said, no, we're not paying that much for a teenager, and how foolish does that look now? Right, I'll go back to this one anyway. So if Liverpool and Manchester United had Chelsea and Manchester City owners, would both teams be the best in Europe? I mean, I already think that Liverpool are the best in Europe, but it is an interesting question. You've
just won the league for the first time in 30 years, and the year before that, you won the Champions League. So, Liverpool aren't doing terribly compared to what Manchester United are doing. If Manchester United were owned by the Man City owners or Abramovich, then, yeah, I think we would have won more titles, because they're ruthless owners as well. They're rich, but they're ruthless. Like, they sack a manager if he doesn't win the league, and then they'll give the new manager the funds. So it's trial and error, isn't it? They are owners that will just chase success. So, yeah, I think United would have won more titles, definitely, if they had a rich owner. I mean, it's not the ideal way of doing it. I think we're rich enough, and Liverpool are rich enough.
Would you want one? Would you want one? That's an interesting question, actually, and one that I'm often asked as a Liverpool fan.
I don't think we need one. I just think we need owners that don't suck the club of money. I think United have got the revenue streams, and Liverpool have got the revenue streams. You've definitely got the manager. So I don't want to do it with a FIFA cheat code. I've seen Blackburn do it, Chelsea do it, Man City do it. I don't want to do it that way. I'd take it over the current situation. Of course I would. I'm not bloody stupid, but I would like it just to be. I'd like our club to be run properly, so that we don't need a sugar daddy or whatever.
Yeah, I have to say I'm very proud of the way Liverpool went about winning that league title. I mean, a lot of the credit has to go to Jurgen Klopp. Of course it does. I mean, the attraction to players, the coaching, and the gems that we've unearthed, like Andy Robertson, for instance, for the fee that we got him for, seems ridiculous. Right, one last question. And I didn't mean to ask you this one, but it's too interesting not to. Craig, can you ask Mark, does he think Sir Alex passed the poison chalice as the team were aging when he retired? I think, by the way, Ferguson was a genius stepping out when he did. He pulled the Jose Mourinho. He got every little bit he could out of that team before he knew it was a day, and then he just left it for somebody else. David Moyes, obviously, in your case.
Well, it's funny. I had, not name dropping, but we had Danny from The Script on at the weekend. And when he was
went to school just up the road from me as well in Still Oregon. Shout out to Danny. And that was brilliant, by the way. And the thumbnail, touching on Drawdy again, piece of art. Absolutely brilliant.
And he's such a nice guy. And the great thing is, obviously, being Irish, and I lived there for 3 years, he's absolutely honest. Everybody I knew was a Liverpool or United fan. And obviously, it's just which one you choose. That's what Ireland was when I lived there. And I don't know where it's still that now. But he said about Van Persie being a fan of the script, or his wife or whatever. And he was saying, he spoke to him and he said, can I just ask you one question? How pissed off with you? How pissed off were you that you signed for Sir Alex Ferguson? Yes, you won a title, but then he pissed off after a year and he went, don't talk to me about it. It pissed me off. Brilliant. I can't moan about it because, I got the title and he had to retire because of his wife and her sister dying. He did the right thing. But yeah, I was pissed off. I expected to go there and win 3 or 4 titles. So there are United fans. It's a good question, and it's great to get it on a Liverpool channel, because there are United fans out there that feel that Sir Alex Ferguson got out at the right time and left the poison chalice. But David Moyes walked in with a sledgehammer and smashed the club up. He got rid of the backroom staff. He was like, I'm going to bring in Steve Round, have Phil Neville as a bloody assistant manager. Like, he got rid of everything. So it's hard to gauge, because what happened is Sir Alex Ferguson left something and somebody else came in and absolutely tore it down anyway. So you'll never judge it. But having said that, Van Persie was at the top of his game. Rooney was still there. Ferdinand and Vidic were coming towards the end, as were Evra. But I still think that Moyes ruined the experiment. I don't think there is an honest answer. I still think if Sir Alex Ferguson had stayed another year, he would have won a title. So that's probably your answer. I don't think it was over then. It was coming towards the end. And Sir Alex Ferguson decided to retire very late. He wasn't planning on doing it. So he was planning to be there for another year. And there was a very strong rumour that Ronaldo was coming back that summer as well. So plans were in place. And I think we would have carried on winning titles. But if you give a job to a Pratt, things are going to go wrong. So I would like to have seen Mourinho come in then. That's when I wanted Mourinho, straight after Sir Alex, because I think he'd have done a better job, because he would have known how to deal with people like Ferdinand and Vidic and Evra. But so I don't think it was a poison chalice. I just think it went to an absolute clown and he tore it all down.
As always, buddy, I'd love to keep you on for longer, but I know how busy you are. Folks, I'm going to stay on because we've got some Liverpool stuff that we need to get through, and I've had the weekend off. But before I let Mark go, I just want to say thank you again, Mark, for taking the time. You're very good. I know you said we talked before you came on, you said you love to do these type of things. It's just a matter of time. And as always, buddy, I just want you to know we're not rooting for you as a club, but we're rooting for you as a channel. And that road to 1 million, when you get it, you've earned it and you've deserved it. And nothing but love from us to all content makers out there, because whether you like somebody or you don't like them, the work that goes into running a channel, even a small channel, people need to show respect to those people, because sacrifice your family life, you sacrifice some, particularly you, with the hours that you put in. I mean, I'm sure that your missus has had certain times where she's probably happy to get rid of you sometimes, but then other times she probably wishes they should have a bit more of you. But thank you, mate. I always appreciate you giving up your time to come on. And you say it best when you say enemies not rivals, or rivals not enemies, sorry. And I think that's a very good way to sum it up. So thank you for your time as always, Mr. Goldbridge.
No, thanks to you and everyone who's involved, because I know there's people involved behind the scenes as well. Connor, and I think you've got other people involved, haven't you, as well? Obviously, your live comments. I've been reading. That's why I've been looking away from Craig, because I can't help myself looking at the comments. So, thanks everybody, and I really enjoy it. I do enjoy it. For me, it is just about the time to do it, but when I do it, I enjoy it. So it's flown by, and all best to the channel, and I'll pop out. Speak to you all later.
Take care, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, pal.
Bye bye. Ladies and gentlemen, that was always fun. It is always great to catch up with Mr. Goldbridge, and this is the part where I realise that everybody's here for Mark and the viewers start going, but it's all right. I'm big enough to deal with this. Thankfully, I can now take out these earphones because I don't like wearing them. Look, for ladies and gentlemen, any Liverpool chat, anything that you want to go through, we've got loads to talk about because I've taken the entire weekend off. From our point of view, look, we've got it confirmed. The referee for the game against Leeds United on Saturday is going to be probably the best referee in the Premier League, if I'm being honest with you, in Michael Oliver. So I want to know your thoughts on that. I want to know your thoughts on all things Thiago and Gini Wijnaldum related, because it's looking like Gini is starting to edge his way towards the Barcelona side of things, shall we say. And I want to know all your thoughts on everything, because it's been a long weekend and I don't remember being away this long for a very long time. So I said I wanted to just catch up with you guys for a few minutes before we finished up, because I'm aware that you guys haven't got to watch all weekend. So anything you have to talk about, anything that you want to ask, put it into the chat. Any rumours that you've seen, because I mean it's gone quite quiet, being honest with you. I know it's an international break, but it has gone rather quiet on the Liverpool front. It looks like, if you're listening to the noises coming from the Barcelona friendly media, that Genie wants to be there, that Koeman wants him there. There was a little bit of talk around maybe them having an interest in Thiago, but that interest seems to be played down by a lot of people in the media as well. Anfield agenda, where's this one? If Liverpool do sign a fourth choice centre-back, who would it be? Do you know, the more I've thought about this and the more I've read on that situation, it doesn't look like we're going to add a fourth centre-back. I'd seen something put out there in the media again that talked about a subject we touched on last week, and that was the opportunity for Fabinho to be that auxiliary fourth choice centre-back if we need one. Obviously, from our standpoint, we have Billy Comedio breaking through, and he's a 17-year-old kid. As good as he does look, he's still a 17-year-old kid. So it's gone quiet. We've been linked to Diego Costa, of course, but I've never believed that for 1 minute. Not Diego Costa, excuse me, Diego Carlos. Jeez, if we were linked to Diego Costa, that would be very strange. We've been linked to Diego Carlos from Sevilla. I never believed those, because the transfer fee would be far too high that we'd be willing to spend in this window. And the Mondi one from Real Betis, that's gone very quiet. I actually seen somebody asking the guy in the Echo Q&A earlier on as well about that, and genuinely I've heard nothing. I've reached out to a couple of the journalists that I know in Europe as well around this, and the centre-back situation is one that nobody seems to be able to fill us in on. So maybe it will be a situation that we go into this pulling a Pep Guardiola, as I said, and having three senior first-choice centre-backs, or three senior centre-backs, and then some youngsters or some makeshift ones for cover. But you know what? I think we'd understand that more as Liverpool fans if we got Thiago, and if we got somebody like either Sarr or the guy that I personally hope that we get getting, Patson Daka, the guy from Salzburg, that obviously is Johnny come lately, because you know he's kind of only burst onto the scene to Liverpool fans in the last few months. But it's an intriguing window, and one that I'm starting to get more nervous about as the days go by, because when I don't see any progress on the Thiago situation, and when I still see us scratching around for money, I don't know. If Genie goes, Thiago will come. That much I'm very confident of anyway. We're signing no one, said Captain Clun. Mate, I've been, worrying about that myself. And that's a situation that I think will not take all the good of Liverpool winning the Premier League title, but it's going to be very difficult to stomach if we go through this entire window and we don't strengthen. Yes, we brought in Costa Simicas, and that looks like a very good piece of business. Moving on, Dejan Lovren, the fee almost cancelled each other out. There's a very interesting thread on Twitter earlier on. You've probably seen it from the Swiss Ramble. It's, it's way above my pay grade with regards to football finances. But if you do want to know in absolute detail why Liverpool are acting the way we are in this transfer window, I thoroughly urge you to go and have a read of that. And as well, look, if you're new to the stream for the first time, by the way, and you've just joined us, or you were here from Mark, please do hit that subscribe button. As you can see, Mark's on the road to 1 million, but little old us, we're on the road to 50k. So if you do enjoy what you're watching, please do hit that subscribe button, drop a like on the stream as well. Craig, what's this one? Craig, as times are strange, do you think the owner should get or give a minimum loan of maybe 50 million to see us through this summer? Over the next few years, we'll need a major overhaul to start. It's a good question. And I suppose the answer is, would I like them to do it? Yes, but are they going to do it? Most likely no. And again, that very thing is touched on in that Swiss Ramble thread. Most other clubs now, the owners are going out there and lending money. Roman Abramovich, the Leeds owners, I think the Everton owners have taken out a loan. I'm fairly sure Spurs have taken out a loan as well to fund some of their transfer business. But Liverpool's owners, they've been very good in regards to loaning us money for the likes of the main stand, and they'll front up the money for the Annie Road end. They did it, of course, for the new training ground at Kirby. But when it comes to acquisitions, or when it comes to bringing in players, they don't seem to want to do that. And it has always been their business model, so it's very difficult to criticize them for doing what they've always done. But it is difficult to stomach as a Liverpool fan when you're going into the third window without any major investment in the club, and you're almost asking, is Jurgen Klopp being punished for the success that he's had? And I would say to some extent the answer is probably yes to that one. But yes, I would like the owners to roll the dice a little bit and maybe throw in an extra 50 or 60 million, because they know they'll recoup that. They know that when fans get back inside stadiums and the Nike deal and maybe bringing in, let's say we bring in Thiago, you know that a shitload of Thiago shirts are going to be sold. You know that we'll get that 20%, and it does feel a little bit strange. And it's a very good question, and I do urge you to have a read of that thread from the Swiss Ramble. Very detailed, way above my pay grade, but it covers exactly the accounting and the way that Liverpool's finances are. What's this one? Craig, how do you feel about Tsimikas having COVID? Like any player that gets it, mate, my first wish is that they recover quickly. And, you know, Connor said to me before I came on the stream that Kylian Mbappe as well. It just seems like when all these players now have left the bubbles that the Premier League and the clubs have kept them in, and they've gone out there to play international football, you can see straight away how many people are after, unfortunately, getting it. And I just hope, like anybody else, that he makes a full recovery and that it's not serious. That's my first concern. Other than that, I mean, there's not much we can do. What else we got? Klopp will only buy the right players, said Lone Star Londoner, which I do agree with, mate. But I still want to go back to what I said earlier on. Klopp wanted Timo Werner. We know that. We've heard many journalists say that as well. And what I want to ask you guys is, are you worried when you hear that he wanted Werner? He asked Werner to hang on because we're still trying to put the finances in place. And he seems to have been told no by the owners. Now, I'm not here to kick the owners, by the way. I think the owners have done a lot of good stuff for us, but I like all of you. I will be annoyed if we go through this window and we see everybody else getting strengthening and we're sitting on our hands. Sitting on our hands, by the way, with a very good team, but still sitting on our hands nonetheless. And that is a little bit frustrating. But then again, there is a lot to be said for continuity, which people don't want to hear and I don't want to talk about. But we do have a very good group of players here, and we do have a very good core of young players coming through as well. So it is really difficult in these scenarios to criticise and to moan when we're after seeing this group of players lift the Premier League. We're after seeing this group of players put together the European Cup, the Super Cup, the Club World Cup. Yes, it's difficult, but I understand everyone's frustration because transfers are sexy and bringing somebody new into the club just lifts everybody. I mean, it probably lifts the training ground, lifts the fan base, but it isn't just a quick fix all the time. It does have to be the right player. So when you touched on that, I think the key word there is the right player. And Klopp, his transfer business has been second to none. I mean, outside maybe Loris Karius, I can't really think of a transfer that Klopp has been involved in that hasn't really worked out. Maybe you could add Shaqiri to that list, although some Liverpool fans would argue that Shaqiri just hasn't been given enough opportunities. I'm kind of somewhere in the middle. I never really thought he was good enough, but he has had a few good games. But it's injuries with him, I think, have been the problem. Right, going to do one or two more. What have we got? Players are aging. Facts. Yeah, there is that. There is that. Like, we look at our front line and they're all 28, 29, the three starters anyway. But we do have young players coming through as well. So I wouldn't say that Liverpool are necessarily an aging squad. What have we got? Kate is the next Iniesta. Lovely to see you in again, buddy. Said we should play a 4-2-3-1, which I think we touched on in one of the recent friendlies. I think we switched into that. And depending on what way or what type of, if we bring in a forward, that could change. Like if we were to play Raheem Brewster, then maybe we see Bobby drop back a little bit and the 4-2-3-1 could be plausible. And we heard that journalist from Barcelona, whose name keeps escaping me, talk about if Thiago comes in, the plan is to play Fabinho and Henderson with Thiago ahead of them, which excites me as well. I'm not going to lie. Right, a couple more before we finish up. Lewis Fuller said, Craig, do you think Liverpool need to change formation to substitute lack of signings in order to keep it fresh? I think as football fans, at times, we get a little bit too caught up in formation because formation is fluid. And just because you start a game with one formation doesn't mean that won't be tweaked in ways that sometimes we as fans can see on the pitch. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes it's small little things that goes unnoticed. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. And I'd always back Jurgen Klopp's knowledge of how to set up over mine or anybody in the chat, to be quite frank with you. So Jurgen Klopp will know his plans and he'll know how to get the best out of the group of players that he has, but most importantly, he'll know how to set up against certain opposition. Because if you're away in the Champions League, you might want to go two holding midfielders. If you're at home in the Premier League in a game that you should likely go out there and win, you might want to go a bit more attacking and go out on the front foot. So yeah, it's a tricky one. But look, a couple more, as I said, before we finish up, ladies and gents. So just to let you know, we've got a really packed week coming up here on the channel. I have got a couple of pre-recorded interviews that I'm going to be doing this week as well. We're working on getting James Pearce on. He'll be with us hopefully towards the end of the week. And loads of other bits and pieces as well. Obviously, all leading up to the kickoff of the Premier League for us on Saturday, 5:30 p.m. kickoff against Leeds United. We will, of course, be doing a watch along of that on the channel. Right. What else is there? We need to sell 6. Let's get this one up before we finish. We need to sell 6 players. If it's 1 in, 1 out, all clubs cannot buy from us. We do not get new players. Yeah, that's what's worrying me, Sarah, as well. If this is a sell to buy window for us, we're certainly leaving it quite late to start moving players on. Now, we've moved a couple out on loan and we've completed a few smaller deals. But if we're to be looking to move on the likes of Wilson, the likes of Marco Grujic, and maybe a couple more players, then yeah, we need to get going, because ideally we'd like to have these new recruits, wherever they might be in, as close to the start of the season as possible. Because if Thiago were to come in, he's going to have no pre-season with Liverpool Football Club. So the odds are we probably don't see all that much of Thiago this side of Halloween, because we know Jurgen Klopp likes to get people up to speed. And we've seen, well, let's like Chamberlain, we've seen with Robbo as well. Sometimes it can take a couple of months before Klopp feels like, you know, it's time to let them off the reins and put them in. So that's what worries me. Even a new signing now, still going to take time to gel. Right, well, last question before we finish up. Where's it gone? From Rowan. What are your thoughts on Brewster supposedly on the market for 20 million? This suggests we're eyeing up a striker forward. It is complete and utter horseshit, mate. That's what I'll say to that. I'd seen where that originated from, and I think there's a bit of cross wire somewhere. So Raheem Brewster could be available for loan, but he is absolutely not available to be sold. No way. Think back to how hard we worked keep Brewster at the club. We cancelled a pre-season friendly against Borussia Mönchengladbach because they were sniffing around a little bit too much when Brewster hadn't quite signed his deal with Liverpool yet. And Jurgen Klopp went out of his way and worked really hard to make sure that Raheem Brewster was there for Liverpool and would be a Liverpool player moving forward. So no, he is not available for 20 million, but he could be available to go out on loan. And if he is going out on loan, then I would say that the front runners are probably Sheffield United. I've seen Crystal Palace linked as well, but I'd read a lot of quotes that Klopp really likes the way Chris Wilder has evolved that team and the way that they play, the way that they have that high press. And it will probably be a very good destination if Raheem is to go out on loan. But last week I read something, and I think I put it out in one of our streams as well, that at this moment in time, Jurgen Klopp wasn't going to send Raheem Brewster out on loan until at least January anyway, that he was going to try and cover his bases. So it's a very tricky one for the manager, because nobody doubts Raheem Brewster's quality, but do you keep him in and around the first team and hope that he gets game time and maybe play him in a couple of the domestic cup games? Or do you send him out on loan somewhere like to Sheffield United, where he will probably play 30 Premier League games and could well have an amazing season, and it could be genius, a masterstroke from Jurgen Klopp? So it's about getting the balance between not stifling a young player's progression and, you know, just writing them off. And nobody's going to write Raheem Brewster off because he's too damn good to write off. But yeah, there's also the links to Antoine Griezmann. I wanted to touch on them. Horseshit. Absolute nonsense. Don't believe a bit of it. Put that in the Koulibaly rumours. It was just never true and never going to happen. Right, Giants Nation, this is going to be the last one. So do you think Naby Keita should start versus Leeds on Saturday? 100%. Right now, if I'm going into this game, the question is Hendo. Is Hendo going to be available? He is back training, which is great, but he hasn't played a minute of pre-season football for us yet. So ideally, my midfield would have been Fabinho, Keita, Henderson. But we could see Fabinho, Keita, Wijnaldum. We could see Fabinho, Keita, Milner. A lot will depend, I think, on Hendo. But this will be a breakthrough season for Naby Keita. I've got no doubts about that whatsoever. He's starting to show and look like the Naby Keita that we've all hoped was going to come to Liverpool Football Club. And I'm glad to see that him and Takumi as well. I want to touch on Takumi Minamino, because we can't let this go without talking about his improvement, because there were some doubters out there in the Liverpool fan base about Takumi. And I said time and time again, the lad's only here a wet day. He only came in January. He's played very little minutes. He's still getting used to the country, the city, the style of football in the league. And now we're starting to see Takumi show some real signs that he's understanding Jurgen Klopp's system, what the manager's asking of him. And again, I'm glad to see the Liverpool fans now starting to show the love to Takumi, because he looks like another fantastic piece of business to 7.25 million quid. So look, ladies and gents, I'll be back tomorrow at 8:30 with another late night agenda. I'll have everything ready for you guys. We'll talk transfers. We'll talk everything in between. Please do make sure to hit that subscribe button before you head off. Drop a like on the stream. And if you haven't joined the Anfield Agenda Flick chat group, there is a link in the description. We'd love to see you over there. I'll be on there as soon as this stream ends. We'll be talking all things Liverpool on there. We'll be asking you guys your predictions for the season ahead. We've got our league table set up for your predictions for scores and stuff for the season ahead, and there'll be prizes maybe monthly, but certainly at the end of the season for that as well. So if you haven't joined Flick Chat, it's absolutely free. It's a brilliant app. There's a link in the description, or just search Flick Chat on the Google Play Store or the Apple App Store. Look, ladies and gentlemen, really appreciate your time. For those of you that are coming in wondering where Mark is, you missed him. We had 40 minutes at the start with Mark, but I just stayed on at the end. Lots of love to you all as always, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you giving up your evening. Thank you very much, and up the Reds.